Morning. I grew up in a small town in Iowa, like I'm sure many of you, or small towns throughout the nation. And as kids, we kind of had a free run of the neighborhoods, and the entire town actually. And if we weren't in school or doing chores, most of the time, regardless of the weather, we were outside playing, doing something. We might be just riding our bikes all over the neighborhood, across town, downtown, pick up baseball games, see somebody playing basketball in their driveway, just join. And so we were outside most of the time. And in those days, hardly any of us wore wristwatches. We had no clue what time it was, and we really didn't care. In our small town, at noon and at 6 p.m., the small town water tower siren would go off. And when it happened, right, all the kids would scatter like bugs being uncovered by a rock, right, heading home. See you later. We were going somewhere. And in the evening, it was the same thing. After the dishes were done, we'd be outside playing whatever, right, all over. And so we had no concern about the time. We knew eventually we'd have to come in, but that was not where we concerned our time. We were having fun. My dad had a unique way of calling us in because me and my siblings might be scattered over several blocks playing for some particular reason. And so he had a unique way. He had this whistle, all right, self-imposed whistle, very loud and shrieking, all right, which I was going to do for you today, but it'd probably break the sound system. And you could hear it almost anywhere. And so you knew it was time to come in. My father had called, as all fathers. And we came home. It was not out of fear or concern about what would happen if we didn't show up. It was we just did it. Maybe it was out of respect or love, honor. We never gave much thought to it. It was just the way it was. The Father was calling. We were going home to our family where it was comfortable, and it was home. We belonged to something. We are part of a family. Today we hear a lot about shepherd and sheep, something we've come accustomed to hearing if you're a Christian or Catholic. It comes up all the time. But we also hear in the gospel a continuing story. If you remember last week's gospel, right, Jesus sent his disciples out, all the towns and villages. Go out. Don't take a purse or a second tunic. Wear sandals. Take no money bag. Just go out and preach the good news of who the Father is, who God really is, this Father who loves you and cares for you. And teach them. And give them power over evil and even to heal. And so we hear in today's gospel, very short, their disciples are coming back and they're all excited. They went to the towns and the people responded and they listened and they were joyful and they were able to drive out demons and to heal people. They wanted to come back and share that good news with Jesus and the rest of the disciples. And so Jesus says, great, you must be tired. Let's go off somewhere by ourselves to a deserted place and give you a chance to rest. And as the story goes, those people heard about where they were going, and they rushed around the lake. The disciples were going across in a boat and got there before them because they were hungry. They knew something was amiss. Something was good happening there. They wanted to be part of it. They had heard the call somehow. They had heard the siren somehow. And Jesus had pity on them and began to teach them. Listen to the voice of someone calling you home. Now we know some people are very hard of hearing, or sometimes they don't have a context in which to understand what it is they're hearing. Understand what the siren means, what the voice of Jesus is calling them to. In this world, if you don't have understanding or a conversion of Jesus, Jesus' voice may be indistinguishable from all the other voices and noise that we hear around us. hard to pay attention to a voice we don't know what it is or who it is who's speaking to us. Flannery O'Connor, who is a well-known American novelist, once said, "To the hard of hearing, you shout." It might be said that today the largest group of those people who are hard of hearing are those unaffiliated, those who have no affiliation to a religion or to a faith. After all, they've been bombarded for decades with secular noise that squeezes out any God, any religion in their lives, replace it with this secularism of honor, pleasure, wealth, power. They try to replace God to heal the interior restlessness that we feel. And we hear that noise also. It's all around us, and it can affect us. It can wear us down and make us think maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we should join that group. But sometimes they do hear, but they don't know what they're hearing. The sound of love and peace of the Father, the sirens have no meaning to them because they don't have any experience of Jesus. They may not have an experience of Jesus because we have not gone out and shared that joy, invited them in, engaged with them. The sound of God's voice isn't familiar if it hasn't been shared, because there is no relationship. Jesus sent out his disciples to teach and to heal and to comfort. It's the same mission he sends us. All of us here, we are so blessed. We have been called into the family. We have responded. We are here. We understand what the call means. We are called to the same adventure that the early disciples were called to, because we know things could be way better than they are. We're aware that things could be better. But for some reason, we might be reluctant to go all in. We hesitate maybe out of fear or insecurity. And we can become spectators, like watching tragedy on the evening news, the floods or the riots or the burning fires. We say, somebody should do something about that. Sometimes the someone is us. God calls us if we just listen. He's calling us always to send his disciples out, to share the joy, to share what we've been offered through Jesus Christ. There's a well-known hymn that is after the call of Samuel. And although I like this hymn really well, it sometimes gets me because I'm not sure I really want to hear. And I'm really going to do what this hymn says. It sometimes rings hollow for me. It goes something like this. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. And there it goes. God continually calls us, and we love to hear the call. But how do I respond? To say, I will follow you if you lead me. Sometimes it's like, me? You sure? It's me? Sometimes I feel like I'm like a school kid who's not prepared for his lessons, and he goes into school, and the teacher's going around asking questions, and you kind of do what you do. You kind of do this, or you kind of look down, and you're scribbling something. Don't want to make eye contact with the teacher, because you might actually get called on. I get it. I've been there. You talking to me? You talking to me? Yes, Jesus is talking to me. And Jesus is talking to you, his disciples. He's calling you. He's strengthening you. In my small town, like small towns and even big towns, here in Des Moines, I hear it. The church bells chime, calling us to worship, calling us to church, to join the family at Mass. For the meal, the Eucharistic meal, the bells call us to something great, where Jesus himself teaches us in his word, who offers the meal for us. Jesus himself calls us, and then he sends us out to share that joy, strengthened by his word and his body and blood. We've heard him calling in the night. We've heard him calling. You talking to me, Lord? Yes, I'm speaking to you. We know someone who needs to know the love of God. We know someone who needs to be here to worship the table of our Lord. We know someone. You're being sent. Who can we share the good news? For whom can we invite to join us? Sometimes God talks in a whisper, and sometimes he calls out in a big siren, not to be mistaken for those who know what it means. Whether you hear the whisper or you hear the siren, God is calling you. So I ask you, the next time you hear a siren, no matter what kind of siren it is, you stop and think, God is calling me to something. The siren means something. What is that siren calling me toward?